Okay, so for this lesson, what we're going to go over is we're going to look at how to work with a table in InDesign. So if you haven't already, go ahead and download this lesson for zip file, and if you expand that, there are a bunch of assets in there that we'll use in a sec. But first, in InDesign, we're going to go to Create New. We're going to make a document that's 11 inches wide, 8.5 tall, 1 page, start number at 1, columns 1, gutter at 0.125. The margins will be set at 0.5. And we don't want to bleed on it, so make sure those are set to 0. And then hit create. And you should get a document that looks like this. If you're missing something or if you have a bleed line, you can always go back to File, Document Setup, and you can change your settings in here. First, what we're going to do is we're going to create our table. So go up to Table, Create Table, and we want 5 rows, 5 columns, no headers, no footers, basic table style, and hit OK. And it should change your cursor, and if we click once, you'll notice it adds it in for us. But this is a little bigger than what I'm wanting, so I am going to select each column. The way you do that is you grab your type tool, and if you go to the top, you should see your cursor change to an arrow. That lets you select an entire column. If you want to do a row, it's the same thing. Grab your type tool and go off either to the left or the right, and your cursor should change, and that lets you change or select the entire row or column. We're going to go ahead and select everything because we want to change this row height, which is this setting over here, to 0.8125. And then we'll change the column widths individually, but we want to change the alignment to center, and inset is going to be set to 0.25. You won't notice anything immediately with these two settings, but once we add text, you'll see that it'll put it more in the center. So next up is I want to change the column width of each individual column. So I want to select the first one, make that 1.5. These next two are going to be 2. This one's going to be 1.5. And this last one will be 2 as well. Okay. Next up is I'm just going to move this a little more in the middle here. Now you'll notice that tables work a bit like graphics do. They come with their own frame. So you can use the frame to control how much of the information you're seeing. And you can see like a text frame, if we're blocking out some of it, it will tell us with that overset error. But I'm going to keep this stretched out. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new empty frame. I want it to be pretty big because we're going to throw some information in here that we'll reference for the table. So once you have that frame in there, go to File, Place, and we want the speakers doc. Hit open, and you'll see it adds this stuff in here. This first column is going to be for names and where the person's from. This will be the person's job title and where they work. The particular subject matter they're going to talk about, the time, and then this last one is going to be what kind of presentation they're going to do. So I'm just going to grab my type tool and start selecting information to move it over here. For the job titles and where they work, I'm going to put a paragraph break. So in this case, it'll be between director and synth collective. You won't notice anything immediately on that one because it was already on a separate line. But when we go to add our paragraph styles, that will matter. And then I want panel presentation to be on its own line, but I don't want it to be completely cut off from roundtable when I go to add the paragraph style. So I'm going to hit Shift Return to create that that break. So that way it's still technically part of the same paragraph, but it's not completely sectioned off. Same thing with hands-on studio panel. I'm just going to hit Shift Return for panel presentation. Okay. Once I have all that information in there, that's what it should look like. I'm going to go ahead and go over to color, make sure you don't have anything selected. If you can't find this panel, just go to Window, Color, Color. And there are some colors that I want to add to my swatches. They're custom colors and they're colors I'm going to use a lot. So I'm just going to double click on that square there. And the first one I want is I'm going to go down to the hashtag down there. And I'm going to put in 8C5824. And it should make this like a yellow, brown, orange kind of color. Hit OK. And I want to add this to my swatches. So I'm going to right click, add to swatches. Then if I go up here, it'll be at the bottom. But it has this really long name, the default for naming colors or naming swatches. In InDesign is it just uses like its chemical makeup. So I'm going to right click, go to swat options. And where it says name with color value, I'm going to turn off that check mark and I'm going to give it its own custom name. Once I have that, I'll hit OK. I'm going to go and make another color. Again, I'm going down here. And this one's going to be 3B2316. And it should make this dark brown color. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to do the same thing. Right click, add to swatches, and I'm going to go up here, go to swatch options, and then I'm going to turn off name with color value, and I'm going to give it my own name. And then I'll hit OK. So next up is I'm going to go back into this table here, and I'm going to grab my type tool. And I'm going to start spicing up this information so it looks a bit more visually interesting to look at. And because I'm going to be using a lot of the same settings up here over and over again, I'm going to use paragraph settings to set some of this up. So I'm going to go to that first name there, just the name. And I want the font sent to Avenir Black. The size will be 9 point. Align to center. And before I click off it again, I'm going to go to paragraph styles. You can find this in Window, Styles, Paragraph Styles. And I'm going to hit that new button there. And I'm going to double click on it and rename it. Because we're going to be adding quite a few here. And you don't want all of them just named paragraph style 1 through 4. You want them to be a little descriptive so you know what you're clicking on. And I'm going to go to the city. And that one is going to be Avenir Book. That will be 8 point. Align to center, and then make a new paragraph style again. And then double click on it to rename it. And I'm going to go over here. Now, tables and paragraph styles kind of work funky. That's just something in InDesign that I don't think they've quite fixed yet. So sometimes what happens is if you go to add a paragraph style, is it won't always add it correctly. And add it correctly for this top one, but you can see when I did the second line, it has this plus sign next to the paragraph style. That means it's applying the paragraph style, but there are some changes that were made to it. I don't want those changes, so I'm going to hold, if you're on Mac, you'll hold Option, Windows will be Alt. I'm going to click that paragraph style again, and it overrides the settings, and it should apply everything I want it to that line. So this top line should be text black, this bottom one is text book. Both of these I'm going to set to text black. Again, if it gives you a funky error or if it adds a plus sign to the paragraph style, just hold Alt or Option on your keyboard. This one I'm going to make a new paragraph style for. So this one is going to be Avenir Book again. The size will be 10 point. We want it centered again. And then I'm going to hit that new button, rename it. And I'll go over here and I want a new style again. So I'm going to highlight all that. I want Avenir Heavy. I want the size to be 10. I'm going to leave that aligned to the left, but I want to change the color to that light brown we made. And then I'm going to hit the new paragraph style and rename it. Then I'll hit OK. And then I'll go through and I'll change the rest of these rows so it matches what the top one looks like up here. So name is text black, the city is text book, the job title is text black, the workplace is text book. Both of these are text black. This one is text big. And then this one is text brown. Okay, there we go. So it should look like that. What I'm looking at now, and I've decided that I want to add some images to it. So I'm going to grab my type tool again, and I'm going to select this second column here, and I'm going to right click, insert column, and I want to insert it to the left, and I just want one, and I'll hit OK. And you'll see it makes this new column for me. So I want to go back to my table panel. I'm going to resize the width of it to 0.85. And then with those still selected, I'm going to go to table, cell options, graphic. I want the inset to be 0.1. Clip contents to cell, and I'll hit OK. And then with them still selected, I'm going to right click on them. And I'm going to go to convert cell to graphic. And that's going to create some empty frames for me to put pictures in. So when I deselect, I'm going to go to File, Place. And I'm going to grab these faces here. So I'm going to grab Miguel, Darren, Elise, and Christina. Alright, that first one up that I see is Darren. This next one's Elise. This is Christina. This is Miguel, and that's Rachel. So I've got them in there the way I want. But now I'm kind of looking at it, and I've decided that I want to move Christina up a row, and then I want to move the pictures so that way they're the first column. So I'm going to move the pictures first. So I'm going to grab my type tool. I'm going to go up to the top and select that column, and I'm going to click in here. You will see your cursor change. And I'm just going to click and drag, and you should see the very edge highlight. And when I see that, I'm going to let go, and it should move my column over. I'm going to do the same with Christina. So I'm going to select her entire row, and I'm going to move her up one. Make sure you click inside here when you do it, and it will highlight where it's going to put the new row. And now she's where I want her to be. Next up is I'm going to add a header to it. So with my table selected, I'm going to go to table, table options, table setup, and where it says header rows, I'm going to just hit add one. The reason we didn't start off with our table with a header is because it's easy to grab columns and rows and manipulate stuff without that header in there. So I want to hit one on that, hit OK. Then I'm going to select that entire row. I'm going to right click inside of it, and I'm going to go to merge cells, and that will create one big long title box up here for us. Alright, now I'm going to spice up the table design a little bit more. I'm going to go to table, table options, table setup again. And I'm going to add a 2-point border to the outside. I'm going to change that color to that brown dark we had. And I'm going to go to row strokes. And I'm going to try out every other row, see how that looks. And I'm going to change the weight to 2. Brown dark. And then I'm going to go over here, change that to 2. And brown dark. If you wanted those to be different, you can. I want them to be the same because I want my columns to be divided really well. And I'm going to go to fills. And where it says alternating pattern, I'm going to change that to every other row. We're going to change that to the brown dark. Make sure your tint is set at 20. And if you have preview check marked, you should see things change over here to see what they look like. Double check, make sure we can still see our colored text on that. I'm happy with it. I'm going to go to header and footer. Everything looks good over here. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to select my header. And I'm going to change the color on that to that brown dark, so that way it'll fill it up. And I'm going to change the stroke color on that to brown light, so that way it has differentiated from the rest of the table. And if I click off of that, you'll see it changed the color and it changed the fill. And then I am going to grab Avenir Black. Size 20, and that's with the cursor in the header there. And I'm going to leave it aligned to the left. And I'm going to type in, make sure you're out of the size thing when you do this. Okay, I'm going to go to featured, speakers, Wednesday, October 2nd. And I'm going to highlight, I just want to highlight the text. And I want to change the font color to brown. Remember, this top one changes the inside, whereas this bottom one just changes the stroke, which is the line around the shapes. So keep that in mind. I've got that looking the way I want, so I'm just going to select the table and I'm going to change the size of the frame just so it's a bit more manageable. I'm just going to double click on these sides here, and that will bring the frame to match the size of the table. And I'm just going to move this so it's in the center of the page. I can double check that by going to Align. You can also find Align by going to Window, Object and Layout, Align. Make sure that's set to Page, and it's moved to the center of the page now, and I can just move it up and down using my arrow keys. Next up, I'm just going to add some stuff to the top here. So I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to grab the logo. It's called BB Logo. And I'm just going to click and drag to make my frame. Make sure you're clicking and dragging and not just clicking. Then when I let go, it should add it in here. I'm going to change the width to flat 2. Make sure that chain link is turned on before you change the height and width. And you'll see it kind of cuts off my picture. I'm just going to go to right click, fitting, fit content proportionally. And it should fit it just right in there. And then as for the XY coordinates, I want this at 1.3 for X and 1.4 for Y. And then I'm going to add another frame here. Oh, and if when you went to move your logo, it did something different than what I have here, double check your reference point and make sure it's set to the center, because if it's in a different place, it will move things differently. So just undo it, change your reference point to center, and it should position it where it's supposed to go. So I've made a new text frame, or a new frame right now. And I just wanted to fill up most of that space, make sure there's still a gap between it and the logo. And with it deselected, I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to grab the welcome text. I'm going to hit Open, and then I'm going to put it into that frame there. Next up, to make it match everything else, I'm going to select the text. I'm going to change the font to Avenir Black. I'm going to change the font size to 14. Leave it left aligned. I want it set to the dark brown color we picked out. And then I'm just going to change the height of the frame here so that way it matches the content. And then with my reference point in the center again, I'm going to do 6.4 for the X and then 1.6 for the Y. And then I've got it looking the way I want it to. I'm just going to get rid of the frame we created that contained all the information for the chart. I'm going to get rid of that now because I don't need it. And I'm just going to save this as my last name _ table, and then just save it as an InDesign document, and you can turn it in as a finished product.